Yo, what's up, Pakistan? Anis Hanif here. The government already has a resolution for 2025, cracking down on the internet. They call it the PECA Amendment Act 2025, and it's supposed to clean up the internet, make it safer, the whole shebang. President Zardari just gave it the old presidential stamp of approval on January 30th, but some folks, like journalists and human rights advocates, say this thing is less about safety and more about silencing dissent. All right, first up, let's talk about who's running this whole internet cleanup operation. The government's created a new agency, the Social Media Protection and Regulatory Authority, aka the SMPRA. Catchy, right? These guys, they're the new sheriffs in town, but instead of horses, they're riding algorithms. Their job description? To be the internet hall monitor on steroids. They get to decide what flies and what doesn't on your social media feeds. Think about that for a second. A government agency deciding what you can and cannot see online. They say it's all about keeping things legal, stopping the spread of fake news, the usual suspects. But here's the thing, who gets to define what's unlawful or offensive? What are the criteria? Because let's be real, one person's offensive meme is another person's political satire. It's a slippery slope, my friends, a very slippery slope. And let's not forget, this is the same government that's been known to, shall we say, misinterpret laws to silence dissent. So forgive me if I'm not exactly doing cartwheels of joy over here. And don't even get me started on the chilling effect this will have on free speech. Now let's dive into the legal jargon, because that's where things get really interesting, or should I say concerning. See, the PECA Amendment Act 2025, it's not just about setting up new agencies, it's about redefining the rules of the game. They've introduced all these new terms like aspersion, unlawful or offensive content, and, of course, the ever-so-vague social media platform. Sounds like a bunch of legal mumbo-jumbo, right? Well, that's kind of the point. See, when you leave these terms open to interpretation, it gives the government a lot of wiggle room. What exactly constitutes an aspersion? Who decides what's offensive? Is a WhatsApp group a social media platform? Your grandma's Facebook page where she posts pictures of her cats? You see where I'm going with this? It's like trying to play a game where the rules keep changing and the referee is the one who made the rules in the first place. This lack of clarity creates a climate of fear and self-censorship. Okay, so we've got our internet overlords, the SMPRA, armed with their vague definitions of what's bad and naughty online. What's next? Well, they get to play judge, jury, and executioner, of course. That's right, the PECA Amendment Act 2025 gives the SMPRA the power to issue directives for the removal or blocking of any content they deem unfit for public consumption. Think you can post that fiery political rant? Think again. Sharing a meme that pokes fun at, I don't know, maybe a certain political party? Think twice, because if the SMPRA doesn't like what they see, poof, it's gone, vanished into the digital abyss. And you know what? They don't even need a court order, no need for pesky things like due process or the right to a fair hearing. Nope, it's a one-way ticket to censorshipville. They're just going after the bad guys, right? The terrorists, the criminals, the people spreading fake news. But when you give the government this much power, history shows us that they're not always going to use it responsibly. All right, so you're telling me the SMPRA can just delete whatever they want online, no questions asked? That's messed up. Well, hold your horses, because the government, in their infinite wisdom, has created not one but two new bodies to address this. The Social Media Complaint Council and the Social Media Tribunal. Sounds official, right? Here's the idea. Let's say you post something online and the SMPRA decides it's unlawful or offensive, using their very broad definitions, of course, and removes it. You're probably thinking, hey, wait a minute, that's my freedom of speech, I have rights. Well, in theory, you can now file a complaint with the Social Media Complaint Council. They'll review your case and decide if the SMPRA acted fairly, and if you're not happy with their decision, well, you can then appeal to the Social Media Tribunal, the highest court in the land for all things internet-related. Sounds great on paper, right? A system of checks and balances, a way to ensure justice is served. But here's the catch. Who appoints the members of these councils and tribunals? You guessed it, the government. Okay, let's talk about fake news, because that's the boogeyman everyone loves to fearmonger about these days. And the PECA Amendment Act 2025, oh, it goes hard after those pesky purveyors of falsehoods. We're talking Section 26A, the amendment that specifically targets the spread of false information online. Now, on the surface, this might sound reasonable. After all, who wants to be bombarded with lies and misinformation? But here's the problem. Section 26A is so broadly worded that it could be used to target anyone who criticizes the government or challenges the official narrative. Think about it. The amendment criminalizes the spread of any information that causes fear, panic, or public unrest. Sounds pretty subjective, right? I mean, one person's fear-mongering is another person's legitimate concern. And who gets to decide what constitutes public unrest? The same government that's trying to silence dissent? See where I'm going with this? And the penalties? Let's just say they're not messing around. We're talking up to 3 years in prison or a hefty fine of up to PKR 2 million. Remember the cybercrime wing of the FIA? Yeah, they're getting a serious upgrade, or should I say a rebrand. Say hello to the National Cybercrime Investigation Agency, aka the NCCIA. These guys are like the FBI of the internet, but with even more power. Their mission, to boldly go where no cyber cop has gone before, to hunt down those dastardly cyber criminals lurking in the depths of the internet. Okay, maybe that's a bit dramatic, but you get the idea. The NCCIA is tasked with investigating cybercrimes, from hacking and data breaches to, you guessed it, online speech that the government doesn't like. And they've got all the latest gadgets and gizmos to do it. We're talking sophisticated surveillance technology, forensic analysis tools, the whole 9 yards. They can monitor your online activity, track your every move, and if they suspect you're up to no good, well, let's just say you don't want to be on the receiving end of an NCCIA investigation. Now, I'm not saying that we don't need a dedicated agency to fight cybercrime, but when you couple the NCCIA's vast powers with the PECA Amendment Act's vague definitions of cybercrime, it creates a recipe for disaster. So we've got the SMPRA, the NCCCIA, these new councils and tribunals, all these vague definitions and hefty penalties. What does it all add up to? Well, my friends, it adds up to a whole lot of power concentrated in the hands of the government. And when the government has this much power over the internet, it has the power to control information, to shape narratives, and to silence dissent. The PECA Amendment Act 2025, for all its talk about protecting digital rights, is ultimately a tool of censorship. It's a way for the government to tighten its grip on the digital space and to control what you see, what you hear, and what you say online. And that's a dangerous road to go down, my friends. A very dangerous road. We've seen this story play out before in other countries, where governments use internet regulations as a pretext to crack down on freedom of expression and to target journalists, activists, and anyone who dares to challenge the status quo. And we can't let that happen here in Pakistan. We have to speak out against this law, we have to challenge it in court, and we have to demand that our government respects our fundamental right to freedom of expression. The internet has become our digital public square, a place where we connect with each other, share ideas, and hold the powerful accountable. Look, I know this is a lot to take in, but the truth is, this new law is complicated and honestly, kind of terrifying. These are just the key points of the PECA Amendment Act 2025, but trust me, there's a lot more to unpack here. It's like trying to read the terms and conditions of a software update, but instead of agreeing to share your data, you're potentially signing away your right to free speech. So what can you do? First off, stay informed, read up on the law, understand what it means for you, and don't just take the government's word for it. Talk to lawyers, journalists, activists, people who are fighting to protect your digital rights. And finally, be careful out there, in the digital world. Think before you post, be mindful of what you share, and remember, Big Brother might be watching.